Well, hello, my gorgeous friends, and welcome. Today's topic is that leadership is not a mindset, it's actually a regulated nervous system. So, I'm Tara Kinden. For those of you who don't know me, welcome. I'm so grateful you're here. For those of you who've been here for many moons, welcome back as we dive into today's topic. So, I guide women through a process that I call bioenergetic somatics. It is about helping women understand their energy, their body, and their nervous system so that they can actually lead themselves with more clarity and more power. This gorgeous, quiet confidence. So, because when a woman can feel very safe in her body, she stops shrinking, she stops over functioning for everyone else, and she stops being afraid of being seen. So, she learns how to lead herself first, and then everything else follows. All right, so here's the theme that I'm seeing with clients repetitively. It's like every woman who comes into me, they're not tired because they're feeling a weakness or an immune deficiency. They're tired because they've been holding so many years worth of unprocessed emotions in the body, specifically in the liver. So we're going to talk about that as well. But this is where things are getting kind of jammed up. When you see this repetitively, it's very interesting because we think about leadership. If somebody's coming in to learn about how can I be more visible? How can I lead myself differently? Well, leadership is not about confidence. It's not about mindset. And it is certainly not just about strategy. It's so much more than that. If your nervous system isn't regulated, if your body does not feel safe, if your liver is inflamed and you are exhausted, you cannot lead anything, my friends. Not a thing. Not your business, not your family, not your life. Women's health and our nervous systems and leadership, they're actually the same conversation. So it's not a separate conversation, each one of these pieces, although they've been consistently talked about individually. So just take a moment to let that land thinking about this piece. And we're going to open up the anger topic because I know there are a lot of different ways that we can process our anger, but this is where the magic is, and nobody is talking about it in this particular way. So, right now, of course, collectively, there seems to be even more anger bubbling in society. More women right now who have like very aggressive, angry rage, you know, and it's not coming out that way. What it's coming out as a quiet anger, a polite anger, a swallowed anger. It's not them out raging and screaming, although people are taking a stand, which is a different thing. But what I'm talking about is the kind of anger that eats away at you for 20 years and it gets packed away, compartmentalized. What we do when we feel this energy bubbling in is if the body isn't safe, we disassociate, we disconnect, and the anger has to go somewhere, right? The anger goes somewhere, even though we've gone somewhere else energetically, that gets stored in the body and the body never forgets, right? So what I've been teaching about is, that anger being potentially some unmet boundaries, that anger potentially being where you had to be nice. That anger is where maybe you weren't allowed to want more, right? So what happens is you secretly, quietly pack it away. And so the bridge to the body in Chinese medicine is that anger is stored or lives in the liver, right? And in functional health, what starts in the liver is inflammation, okay? So when we continue to suppress this anger, we can literally create stagnation in the body. So inflammation, hormonal issues, poor sleep, poor poop, weight resistance, brain fog, burnout, autoimmune stuff, all can be traced back to liver challenges, which can be traced back to anger challenges. So we have a lot of things that are unprocessed, and the whole right side of our body is designed for processing. Think about right and left. And there's a lot of language out there saying, right side of the body is your masculine side, father side. I've used this language. I taught yoga for 10 years, and this was all we talked about. But when I'm doing more research on this topic, and the left side being our feminine side, our ancestral wisdom coming through from the mother's lineage, and same on the right with the fathers, right? But this topic it's changing because we're recognizing more of its biological, like I can tell you about it energetically, but you still are in a body and need to understand, okay, well, what is actually happening with the energies that are coming into me from the side? Well, when they come in, you process them. So the right side is about processing, where the left side is about the way that we release. Okay. We process and release. And we think about all these left right systems. There's actually 4 bodily systems that move from right to left. I'm not going into all of them today, but we will be talking about them as we continue to go on. And something very fascinating, which is right on time, is that the digestive tract moves from right to left. So, when a baby gets congested, they tell you to massage all the way up, and it's circular motions up the right, across the top, and down the left to excrete out whatever is causing this digestion challenge, right, for the baby. So think about yourself. They get you to self massage. Same thing, same thing. It's just easier to do for a little person to help them move gas. We don't like touching our tummies because, they're maybe too soft, and you're like, then you start doing self-judgment. And what are you doing? You're storing shame and anger and all the things in that poor little liver of yours. So when we receive information, we break it down. When we receive anything, we break it down in that right side of the body through the liver first, through the gallbladder, and then through the ascending colon. Okay. Then the elimination piece happens on the left side. So biologically, the body is designed to process and then release. But emotionally, most of us only know how to hold. We know how to hold onto that thing and put it away, compartmentalize, disassociate, whatever we have to do, because we can't actually rage it out. If we learned early on, like here's the masculine and feminine challenge in our society, is that boys are taught, oh yeah, they're just aggressive. Watch a hockey game, all the aggression on the ice, the fighting, the fists, like all of the things. But for women, and now of course there's a women's hockey league, but just stay with me, is that we're societally it's not accepted for you to be angry or to blow up or to, obviously we want to use our anger in like ways that is, helpful and not harmful, but that there's a processing that needs to happen. And when we don't allow any processing at all and we just jam it in, well, what happens? It gets stuck, it gets stored. And that's problematic, right? This is an old way of holding on to the things. And so when we're carrying things like anger, grief, stress, the body mirrors that. We get stagnant, we get constipated, we get inflamed, all that red rashing. When things like that rise, that is anger. That is very Mars related stuff. And because we're not completing that full cycle of release, it's just sitting there, right? It's not even moving. It's just sitting there stuck. So the release valve is something that I've been practicing. And this is what I've been working on with clients right now, is that nobody ever taught us a safe way to release emotion. We were taught how to behave, how to be acceptable in society, but not how to process the things that need to get processed. So when we're talking about a release valve that is helpful, not harmful, we're talking about movement. We're talking about sound therapies. We're talking about crying, shaking, breathing, going for breath work, walking, using your voice, using your vocal tone, humming, all of these kind of things helps move the issues through the tissues instead of them just being stuck. Some people love to go for a hard workout, and that helps to move whatever came up. Or journaling, process of rage pages. I've heard of rage pages before. Washing your feet, baths can be very helpful because as the water drains out, you ask that all of those emotions go along with it. Burning. So when you write your journal pages, you don't want anyone to read it. You rip them out, you burn it. There's a sense of releasing happening with that. Any kind of somatics work, any kind of, think about massage, but then because the massage stirs it all up, but there still needs to be the releasing. So maybe after your massage, you take a bath for the release piece. or maybe you get so much moving that you actually do have a release of sorts. Think about being out in nature just as like a calming your soul. Ocean medicine, ocean therapy always feels so good for me. So this is why I teach somatic work. This is why I teach with sound. I love using sound and frequency because it does shift our states. Listening to great songs, like some of you will have songs that are your like hype songs, and some of you will have songs that are your calming, some evoke tears. And that's maybe a great way to have that beautiful release. That's normal, but we're not allowed to have these moments where we get to unravel a little bit. This is why we need to slow down. And because the body has to discharge what it's holding. You cannot mindset your way out of stored emotion. And how can you lead yourself from this jammed up place? You just can't. So now let's talk about the cosmic layer and how the layering of the cosmos. I love astrology, human design. I'm always bringing them together and finding ways to bridge the magic of the cosmos with what's happening in our bodies and, around us societally. This is where things get a little bit interesting because we do not exist separately from nature. We are rhythmic beings. We are cyclical beings. So is the cosmos. Whether you believe in that or not, it is the facts. Okay. So when we're tracking the sun, one thing that I've been doing in the inner tide was like tracking the energies of the astrology, what I'm interpreting from the field, and then what the human design has to say for us as to where is the sun. Sun is about our vitality. Well, leadership is about being in your power, right? Your power center is your solar plexus. I think solar plexus and heart, I can say that they're, both very helpful to helping you understand the information you're receiving and sending, but also, Heart Math Institute talks all about the heart and how much the heart-based energy goes out into the biofield. But your power center, which is your stable point, it's where the solar sun sits in your inner being. When we look at the sun, it helps us feel alive and vital. So I look at the sun, I look at tracking where it is through the gates. I look at what sign is it in? What center is it in? What could be happening for people while this energy is moving today? And every day I do this little call, this little love note to tell them, I can see what organs are actually, the organs and the themes that the collective is processing. So as I record this, it's actually February the 4th. It's hump day. It's the middle of the week. And the sun is in gate 13. In gate 13 at a 13.3. So there is this expression of exploration, experimentation, allowing yourself to have that moment. And we are in the heart. We're in the middle of the body graph. We are right in the G center. Okay. So this is the identity. Where are we going? What are we doing? Are we holding heart spaces for ourselves? All of this kind of stuff. So where the energy moves, so especially when the sun starts moving through the throat gates, of course, there's going to be way more communication. And there are other times when it's going to be more liver-based or, more will center-based or more emotional solar plexus, where we're all just going to be feeling all of these feels. And this is the perfect time to be talking about this before we move into that energy. So you can start to think about that. Okay. Is the sky actually highlighting what is ready to be healed? I think so. And you can lead more powerfully from this understanding before you go about your day. And so this is why I teach this information daily in the inner tide, really helping women understand what their body is asking for in real time, useful information in the present moment to use that day specifically. So let's bring it all home here. Let's tie it up. Let's do this leadership reframe. So to me, leadership isn't about the hustle. It's not about pushing yourself any harder. It's not about forcing yourself to perform when your body is screaming for attention and love. and release. It's like, please open up the release valve. I can't hold anymore. Leadership is about self-trust. It's about self-regulation. It's about being clear and grounded in your own body so that you can feel safe. As you feel safer in yourself, you can make clearer, better decisions. You can use your voice in a more powerful way. You stop abandoning yourself. You stop going outside of yourself for the answers. And that is where everything begins to change. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, wow, I am actually quite tired and my body feels full, even though, maybe you haven't eaten so much, there just is this sense of fullness. You've been carrying a lot alone. You are not weak. You have just been potentially holding a ton of unprocessed emotions, and it has to go somewhere. So I want to invite you, if you're feeling all the vibes, Dominique and I, my beautiful friend Dominique of Nurturing Astrology, we've put together this incredible workshop where she talks about the father wound. And of course, that's the name of it, but it's really dealing with authority in our lives and where we have unprocessed anger from authority figures in our lives or things that we didn't even recognize. And I'm coming at it from this lens of, let's look at the liver. Let's take a moment to slow things down, to get into your body, to notice, wow, I maybe do have some unprocessed things here that are looking for a little bit of light. So we're going to release some pressure and some need to prove yourself, any kind of deep-rooted anger that may be lingering, that lives in your nervous system, that lives in the body, and that lives in the liver. It is totally somatic work. It is gentle. It is powerful. It is the place where you can fully exhale. And if you're like, well, tell me a little bit more about what this looks like, we did a podcast. I'm going to link it here as well. So you can go and watch that podcast and you can have a mini sound session right away and see, is this my vibe? Do I like this? What do I think? What do I feel? And not so much what do you think, actually, it's what do you feel? We want to know that. So it's happening on Friday the 13th, of course, which is the day before Valentine's Day. It's Venus's day. It is a profound day because Saturn will be moving into Aries that day as well. And if your body is asking you for support, we would absolutely love to have you and to assist you in this process. The link will be below in the show notes. And I just want to leave you with always remember who you came here to be. Thank you everyone for being here. Please like this, share this, send it to a friend who is in need of some extra loving and a little bit of support. And hopefully I will see you in the workshop with Dominique.